Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Directions Mag Geospatial webinar, today sponsored by our friends at Esri. I'm Barbara Duke, Editor-in-Chief here at Directions Mag, joined by our webinar producer, Lynette Qualia. We encourage you to read, listen, and watch all the good things over at directionsmag.com. We are excited to have Jackie and Ishmael with us again today. They have got some great information and lots of demos, of course. So without further ado, Jackie, over to you to get us started. Give us a little bit of introduction and what we can expect today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Barbary. Hi, everybody. I'm Jackie Newell, and I'm the Product Marketing Manager for QuickCapture. Today, I'm joined by Ishmael Chavite. He's the Product Manager for QuickCapture at Esri, and we're so fortunate to have him. He's an absolute expert. He's going to be leading us through today's topic, where we're going to explore rapid data collection with ArcGIS QuickCapture. And we're so glad that you decided to join us today. Thank you so much for coming. Let's take a look at what we're going to cover in today's session. First, we're going to start off with the vision for QuickCapture and its use cases. Then we'll take a dive into the components of QuickCapture and how it's licensed. Then Ishmael's actually going to do some demos for us, a how-to demo. Then we'll go over a few things that you should know about QuickCapture before wrapping it up with a live Q&A. As Barbary mentioned, you don't have to wait until the end to ask your questions. So as you're watching the content, if something comes to mind, just put your question in the chat and we'll take a look at it and we'll try to get to it by the end. But don't worry, if we don't get to it, Ishmael's going to post a blog on the Esri community and you'll be able to see further Q&As there after the session. In fact, we really want today's session to be engaging. So we're going to do some polls throughout to hear a bit more from you as we go through the content over the next hour.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. Well, let's start with the vision and use cases here. ArcGIS QuickCapture is Esri's rapid data collection app. If you're not familiar with it, it's a big button mobile app. You can see a screenshot here on the side. QuickCapture offers really the simplest way to collect field observations, and it is specifically designed for rapid data collection workflows. This video illustrates how the application works. You can see that, as we tap on buttons in the application, we get the location from the device, and we create a GIS feature. Every one of these buttons is configured, and we will see this through a demonstration, with rules that dictate what GIS attributes we are going to store. Many of them are collected automatically, others are provided through user dialogues, and we will see all of these in demonstrations. QuickCapture has applications in many fields for at-speed data collection. If you are traveling in a car or a truck, you can easily tap the buttons in the application to drop points when things are of interest. You can even use voice commands, so you don't actually have to tap physically the buttons on the device. You can speak to the application and it will tap the buttons for you. Here's an example of trail management. QuickCapture has a very unique feature that allows you to collect multiple GIS observations at the same time. So you could be riding your bike and creating a polyline. And while this polyline is being created, you can tap other buttons to take photos of issues, to document road signs or bridges along the trail, etc. Here is an example of a configuration for folks working from a helicopter to document their work. It's also used in public safety and law enforcement. Think of see something, say something. You can grab from your pocket the application, collect a field observation, and move on. And this is a great example too from an agricultural company in California. They use Survey 123 in combination with high accuracy GNSS receivers. You can see all the points they collected here. They mapped over 500,000 grapevines, and you can see it's like super accurate data collection, but still fast, right? So collecting data fast doesn't mean that you are not collecting data accurately. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to describe briefly what are the main components of the product, how it is licensed, and then I'm going to do a demo. a long demo. And in this demo, I want to illustrate also some of the new features we added recently, because I know some of you are already familiar with the application. So the first component, of course, is the mobile application. You can download it from the iOS, Android, and Windows or Microsoft app stores. The application works online, but also offline. So if you are not connected to the network, that's all right. You download the project and it works even if disconnected. And of course, the application supports high accuracy GNSS receivers if you choose to use them as well. The second component is QuickCapture Designer. This is a web experience for you to visually create your own projects. You can dictate how many buttons, their colors, their behavior. You can configure a custom map. You can even configure workflow automation with make.com, and hopefully we'll see that in a demo. And then you can share your projects with the public or with a small group within your organization. If you have enterprise or online, it doesn't matter. Everything you're going to see in this presentation applies to both. From a licensing perspective, you need a named user, a creator specifically, if you want to create your own projects. You can see here that the creator can create and share projects. If you want to collect data with the application, you either need a mobile worker user type or an editor with an additional QuickCapture license. In the event that you have ArcGIS Hub Premium, you can actually share your projects publicly, which means that people can collect data even without an ArcGIS account. And of course, if you have a viewer user type, all you can do is to view. That's it. Okay, so I'm going to give you a live tour. As I said, it's basically a demo, and it's probably the best way to look at how to use the product and all the new features that we added. So I'm going to start from the beginning. I want to create a project from scratch. So the foundation of a QuickCapture project is one or more feature layers. And you can see here in ArcGIS.com, I have logged in with my creator account, and I have two feature layers. One of the feature layers is called Redlands Trails, and it has two sub-layers, a point observations layer with a few attributes, and also the trails layer, which is a line layer, okay? And then I also have my issues layer, which is just a point layer, again, with a few attributes. I created a web map. You can see the web map here. And the web map also illustrates kind of the different categories, right, of data. So my issues are categorized by priority, the observations by type, and the trails by condition. Okay, so we have these feature layers with attributes. Let's build a QuickCapture project. So right from the ArcGIS website, you can go and open QuickCapture. This doesn't open the mobile app, okay? The mobile app is in your device, that's different. This is QuickCapture Designer. This is a web environment where you can visually create your own projects, okay? Let's just create one project here. So I'm going to click on New Project, and you could create a project from a template. We in Esri have developed a few templates that you can use. You can click on them, have a look, and just click on this button and you create the project. But this is way too easy. You can also explore it on your own. I'm going to go and create a project from existing layers that I already have. This could be any feature layer, as I said. So in my case, I'm going to select the Redlands Trails and also the issues, these two feature services. Now look at the bottom. This is important. You can create buttons automatically from the layer symbology. So if you have previously set up symbology in your layers, and we did, like you can see here, right? QuickCapture is basically going to take all of these symbols from your legend and create the buttons. So you can see here we have the three layers. We have the layer for issues, the layer for trails, and the layer for observations. So I'm going to save this, and just so you can see how this works really, I'm going to click on Share, and then open this QR code. So next I'm going to bring up my phone, and then I'm going to open QuickCapture, and I'm going to scan the QR code. This downloads the project into my device. I open the project, and now I can collect data. So if I tap on a button, like I'm going to tap on gate, well, that captures one point, and if I tap on trails, this activates the line button, and as long as I am moving, this is going to collect a line. Now, if I switch to the map within ArcGIS QuickCapture, you can see that, well, I'm simulating that I'm moving, I'm playing a GPS file, so you can see how we are collecting the line. And again, if I tap, I will be collecting points along the line as well. Okay, so that's pretty much how this works. I'm going to leave my phone aside, and then I'm going to come back into Designer. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at the data. So let's refresh the web map, and you can see the different points that I collected. So if I click on the line, for example, you can see that I have a line plus a condition. Now, these other attributes are all empty, and we will work next on how to populate these automatically. Here, we also have a couple of points. This is a gate, and this is a point of interest. But you see, most of the attributes are empty. So that's basically how quickly you can get started. And as you can see, let me delete the features. I have this little trick here to delete the features. So I want to keep my map clean as I do the demos, so you can see exactly what I'm doing at all times. Anyways, so I'm going to go back to my map, and if everything clean, let's go back and work on our project a little bit. So the first thing I want to do here in my project is to clean it up a little bit. I'm going to slap a little bit of good paint on it. So let's work, for example, on our trails buttons. So the first thing is I'm going to select all the buttons here. I'm going to make them with round corners. For this one, needs repair, where is need repair coming from? It's really from the legend. You see here, needs repair. So QuickCapture just took that as is, but in my case, because I want this to fit well on my phone, I'm going to just say repair. And then for the group, trails, I actually want to call this trails condition, okay? And then this little button here to collapse and expand, that might be useful in some cases, but in my case, I'm just going to disable it. I don't want people to collapse this particular group. And then I'm going to work a little bit more on the issues and the observations. So if you look at observations, I really have more categories here than I need. So I know people are not going to often do this type of things. So I'm just going to remove a few buttons. This is simply removing buttons from the interface. It's not really editing the layer in any way or the legend or anything. These are really the buttons I really want for people. At the point of interest, the bridge, the culvert. And also, I actually also want people to report issues. So I'm going to bring over this button. I'm going to remove this group. And then I'm going to change the label here and say this is an issue. To make this project shine a little bit more, I'm going to use some icons. So I'm going to go into the gallery, and then I'm going to look for an icon for my issue button, which is going to be that. And also, I'm going to select one for the point of interest. So I'm going to go against the gallery, select this one. And then for the culvert and bridge, we don't have anything in the gallery, but still I can click on Upload New, and then point to a custom PNG or maybe an SVG. I really like SVGs because they are super lightweight and crisp. You can display them, big, and they don't get pixelated. So if you use PNGs, you want to make sure that they are light. You don't want to load like very big images in here. And then what else we can do? Well, I'm going to go into settings here, general settings, and I'm going to set the background color to dark. And then I see way too many colors here. So I'm going to simply change the fill color to a light gray. And I'm going to keep the colors on this one because these colors have a meaning, right? Repair, red makes sense, good, green makes sense too. And then for the group, I will also disable the collapsible button because I always want to display that. And I'm going to remove the label altogether because I think it's self-evident what to do. So now I'm going to save my changes, and then I'm going to go back into my phone. So back into my phone, I'm going to close the project. Then if you look carefully, it says, oh, project update available. So the application knows that something has changed on the project. You get a notification when I open my project, boom. Now it looks much better on my device. Now, if I click on these buttons, the same type of attributes are going to be collected. So I want to work a little bit on the logic or the intelligence of these buttons, so more attributes are captured. So far, I have been looking at this tab, appearance, as you can see here, but you can also flip to data. So let's flip to data, and you'll see that in the data tab, this is going to tell you where data is going to be created when the button is pushed. So in this case, if I push on Culvert, we are going to create a point observation. This is the observations layer. And then you can see here the fields. So in the observation type field, we are going to store the word Culvert. If I tap on point of interest, same layer, but the attribute we store here is different. The same with issues. Issues goes against the issues layer, different layer, and then it doesn't actually set any value in any of the fields. So let's work on this. So one powerful concept here in QuickCapture is this notion of device variables. So take, for example, this one, horizontal accuracy. I can select device variable and then select what information do I want to store here. Do I want to store the direction of travel, the speed of the user, the latitude, the longitude, etc. So in my case, I really want to go against location and store the horizontal accuracy. Okay. And then for this collected on, I'm going to use a device variable, in this case, whatever is the time when the button is pushed. And then I'm going to repeat this process with all the different buttons I have in the other layer. So you see, using the shift key, I selected 3, and then I can go and say, okay, device variable on this field, location, horizontal accuracy, collected on, capture time. And the same with these guys, with my lines. With my lines, I don't have horizontal accuracy because it may vary as I move along the line, but I do have other fields like start time. Tell me when the user starts collecting the line and when the user ends collecting the time. Also here, I have a length in meters, device variable, and then you look and bam, we have length in meters. There are over 50 different device variables that you can use. Let's have a look at them. So again, I'm saving my project. I'm going to go into my application, update the project, and then I'm going to collect data again. So let's start with good, add an issue, add a Culvert, and then I'm going to start repair. Oh, I don't like this. How come the trail is both in good and repair condition? Well, I'll need to check and fix this later. I will do it in the next iteration, but that's something I really want to solve. Okay, so I collected my data. Let's get back into Designer and the web map as well. Refresh the map, and we have here the 2 lines we collected and the point. So let's check the line first. Oh, voila, now we have the length automatically collected, the start time, end time, and condition. There's only one attribute left to complete, which we are going to work on next. And then if I click on the point, I get Culvert, I get the exact time when that button was pushed, and the location accuracy, and 2 empty fields, which again, we will work on next. So you can see here how easily you can create your project and test it following a very rapid, mood. In just a few minutes, we were able to create actually a project that starts to do what we want. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to describe to you this concept of user inputs. So user inputs are excellent to collect additional information that cannot be captured automatically. So for example, horizontal accuracy. We don't need to ask the user anything. We know that, right? The device knows what's the horizontal accuracy. But what about this, collected by or comments? So for collected by, I could potentially go into a device variable and say, okay, user information, and I can store the username, the full name, the first name, the last name, and the email. Where is this data coming from? This is coming from the ArcGIS Online profile. So this will only work if your project is shared with a named user. But if you want to share your project publicly, maybe you don't want to use this, right? So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go and say, I'm going to create a user input. So here I go, project user input, and then I say let's create a new dialog, and then let's call this volunteer. And it's going to be single text, it's going to be required, and I'm going to add a hint. Please enter your name or alias here. So I get this project user input for the issue, and I'm going to basically do the same with the other buttons as well. I select these 3 buttons, I go to collected by, and then I say project user input and use the volunteer dialog. And the same here, pam, pam, pam. Collected by, project user input. And then now let's test this out, and you will see what happens. It's going to be really cool. Okay, so now I bring my project again. I'm going to refresh this. Maybe I didn't save it. Okay. Okay, project update available, update. And then it's going to look exactly, oh, voila. That's the volunteer dialog, right? This is the project user input. When the project starts, a dialog pops so you can enter, say, your name. So every time now I collect a feature, the name of that person will be stored in the collected by field. So let's have a look. I go here, refresh my map, and then I got my line, click on it, collected by Ismail. And the same goes with the point. So this is the trails, this is the observation, Ismail. So what's the beauty here? So go back into my phone. You only have to specify this value once. And this value is reused every time you push the buttons. At any time in the cycle, even when the application or project is open, you can go and say, oh, I'm going to change this to Peter. So if I now collect a feature, it will be stored as Peter, not as Ismail. And so hopefully that makes sense. These project user inputs are very useful. You can, apply a cost center, project name, incident name. I mean, you can use them for many different, reasons. It doesn't have to be necessarily the name of the person. It could be anything. And you can create more than one. You can create up to 3 project user inputs, okay? Now, there is another type of user input which is very powerful, which is the button user input. So let's go, for example, into issue. I go into data for issue, and you see we have comments. So it doesn't make sense to use a project user input for the comments. It makes sense to use a button user input. So the concept is similar. You come into the field and you say button user input. Let's create a dialog. Let's call this, for example, comments. And this is going to be a multi-line text, and I'm not going to make it required. And then at the bottom, priority. The priority, I could actually hard code and say every issue is going to be high priority, but I don't want to do that. I want to use a button user input for users to select what that priority should be. So this is going to be called the priority button user input, which I want to make required. So now I'm going to click on create. And again, we're going to have a look at the mobile phone, and you're going to see, oh, and before I do that also, I want to fix the problem with the lines. Remember that, good and repaired were active at the same time? Well, if you go here to the top, additional settings, and then you say exclusive groups, you can create an exclusivity group. So an exclusive group basically is a group of buttons where only one can be active at once. So I'm going to say good, fair, and repair. Make sure that only one is active. Okay, so just take care of disabling the buttons as needed. So let's save this, go into the mobile phone, and try this out again. Okay, hopefully I'm not going too fast. Let's collect data here. This remembers the previous enters I had, right? So I'm going to go with Ismail, done. And then I go, good condition. Now I'm going to tap on repair, and good is automatically stopped. That's an exclusivity group. Now I'm going to tap on Culbert, and now I'm going to tap on issue. Oh, button user input, right? This is a dialog. Okay, and then I can go next, and I say this is medium priority, and say done. Now I'm going to stop the line. So you kind of see, right, the difference between project user inputs and button user inputs. If you are familiar with QuickCapture, in the old days, we would only allow you to set one button user input per button. Now you can do up to 3. Okay, so you can add additional attributes as you like. Let's check the data again, just to make sure that everything is working. So we have the 2 lines. They are not overlapping because we are using exclusivity groups. Where this one ends, the next one starts. Okay, and if you look at the fields, all of the fields have been completed. And now I'm going to click on the point. And again, we have all the fields for this point, except the comments, because in the observations for the culvert, we actually didn't add any button user input. But for the issue, we did. So if I look at the attributes for the issue, you see we have the comments and we have the priority. So if you look at the attributes here, this was collected automatically, through a project user input. This one was collected automatically. This was a button user input, device variable, button user input. So the whole point here is to create a very simple user experience, but still have a lot of flexibility to create or manipulate these attributes as we wish. The last thing I want to show you here very quickly, and not many people are aware of this, is the map. So you can actually control what is the custom map, right? So by default, we use a base map, but you can come here and say, I want to change the map. And you can choose an online map or an offline map. If you have a mobile map package, you can use it. So in this case, I basically configured my map. So every time there is data in the project, I will actually see it. So this time I haven't deleted any data yet. So hopefully, if I go back into the project and I update the project, this will come with the new definition, which uses a custom map. So if I tap on the map icon, it loads, and this is going to show me, as you see, all the data that I'm collecting. And you could add here whatever information you want to be added. Okay, so just as a recap, and you have this in the handout, device variables, super powerful concept. You have the link here. There are over 50 device variables. And we added recently some very amazing new functionality. For example, you can calculate the device model. Is the user using an iPhone or a Samsung device? What's the version of QuickCapture? What's the operating system? I mean, there is a lot there, a lot of interesting metadata that will help you understand who is collecting data, how data is being collected, etc. User inputs, super critical to get this right. You still want to keep the fluent data collection experience, but the user inputs are going to give you extra power to enrich your data with specific information. Nested data capture, super important. In my example, it didn't make sense to have the green and the red buttons on at the same time, but sometimes it does. Like in this case, you are collecting data. I have a bike path on the right, a bike path on the left. Why not? You can create 2 lines at the same time. That's fair game, okay? Nested data capture. Exclusive groups, we discussed this. This illustration or animation is interesting in that you can see that you can build the exclusivity groups across logical groups or visual groups. So you see there is an exclusivity group built on top of 6 buttons, and the buttons are split between trails paved and trails not paved. So really powerful feature. Again, a link at the bottom with further explanation. Custom maps, we looked at this. I'm using a small phone, so I didn't want to put the buttons and the map in the same screen. But if you have a tablet like here, you can have the map on your face while you have the buttons, right? So this provides you with even a better experience for tablets. What else? Oh, well, a few extra features that I want you to be aware of. One is, of course, you can combine QuickCapture with external GNSS receivers. I have one right here, right? You can use, for example, this type of device and improve the location accuracy of the information you are collecting. Plus, the device variables are going to help you extract all the GNSS metadata from this device. Another interesting feature with these external receivers is that you can increase the throughput of the device. So in my iPhone, for example, my GPS works at 1 Hertz. I get 1 location per second. But if you are traveling very quickly in a car or a helicopter, you may want to send 3 or 4 locations per second, so you can have more granular information when building a line, for example. With these external GNSS receivers, you can manipulate this And QuickCapture has been specifically built to support higher throughput through your GNSS receiver. You want to learn more? Click on the link. Photos are a super important aspect of many field data collection workflows. We use them to document code violations, to represent the condition of an asset, etc. You can take photos with QuickCapture, and this actually makes QuickCapture a very powerful tool. I would say if you have people in the field taking photos, consider using ArcGIS QuickCapture. Why? Because if you take a photo with QuickCapture, one, we're going to put your photo on the map. Second, we can automatically categorize the photo. So if you push on the animal hazard button, your photo will have the animal hazard tag with it. And then you can query the information geographically over time through attributes. So it's kind of like bringing all your photos into a single place, ArcGIS, and being able to see it like nobody else. Well, in fact, I want to show you this notion of oriented imagery. This is like an advanced functionality of QuickCapture, but advanced, well, users don't even know that you are going to do this, but I'm sure you are going to do it once you see the demo. Okay, let me show you the demo very quickly. So I'm going to come into QuickCapture Designer here, and then for the issues, I want people to take a photo, okay? So I go into the data, I scroll down, and I say, take a photo. So I turn on photo. You could collect one or many photos, as you can see here. But in this case, I'm going to say, no, look, just take one photo, okay? And use the photo location for the capture record. In other words, what is the location of the photo in the map? Well, I want that location to be exactly where you were when you took the photo, okay? So that's step number one. This would take a photo along with your point feature. Now, advanced feature, okay? You go into Manage Project Layers, and then you go against the layer where the photos are going to be stored. In this case, it's issues. In fact, if I come and click on issue and I go into data, where is the issue going to be stored? In the issues layer. Okay, so I go there to the issues layer, scroll down and say enable oriented imagery. So what's happening here? QuickCapture Designer is adding extra fields into the issues feature layer. And these fields are going to store information about the exact location from which the photo is taken, the exact azimuth or direction in which you are looking when the photo is taken. Let's have a look at these fields. You can see them here. What's the camera heading? What's the camera pitch, the camera roll? What's the horizontal field of view, vertical field of view? Look at this. This is already pre-configured with device variables, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, once we take the photos with all of these fields, you will see how the oriented imagery tools in ArcGIS are going to really change how you explore photos taken from the field. So back into my phone here, I'm going to update my project. And now I'm going to open the project. And I'm literally now walking, let's say Ismael here. Do you see the issues, the issue button on the bottom right corner? It has a camera icon. This is telling me that if I push the button, okay, we are going to take a photo. So the camera preview is on. I'm opening the door in my house. And now I'm going to get out here. And then I'm going to take a photo right here. Okay. And now I say go. Comments. This is my comment. I know that's bogus. High priority, done, and sent. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my desk. And now we are going to look at the data. And we're going to use two tools to look at this data. The usual tool that you already know, which is the map viewer. And then we are going to use the oriented imagery widget. Okay, I'm back in my desk now. So let's go and look at the map. This is the photo that we took. Oh my God, you know what? I need to take this photo again. And here is why. Because remember, I was simulating my location. So that's not good. So I'm going to go into settings, location provider, and say, let's use the integrated provider. Okay. And now I'm going to, sorry about this. I need to take the photo again. Done. Issues. You can see my doggy right here. And then let's go out. And now stop the door. And now we are going to take the photo. Okay. No comments this time. Priority high. Done. And then we will send it. Okay, let's sit down in the desk. So why is it important that I disabled the simulated location? Because, I mean, realistically, this is not going to work unless this is my house, unless my location is real. So if I click on this feature, map viewer, bam, I get the photo. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Now I'm going to go back into Designer, go into the Manage Projects layers, and then I'm going to launch this option, View Oriented Imagery. So this is opening the Oriented Imagery viewer. These tools you are about to see are actually part of ArcGIS Pro and Experience Builder. This is like a little, viewer we have put together to help you explore, your information. So here I'm going to zoom out and then go to the location where I am. And then that's the point that we took. And then let me click on that dot for a second here. And then look at what happens here. So what is happening is that in the map, we display roughly the area of the map that is being covered by the photo. Okay. In fact, if I zoom in the photo, you can see here that the triangle is going to change, right? So I'm going to look a little bit to the side, look up, look down. You see how it kind of matches? Okay. In fact, if I look to one side, this is going to show me exactly the area of the street that I'm looking at. Even better, if you click on the map, this is going to tell me the rough location in the photograph where that point falls on. And you can see that, I clicked here and then it highlights the location in the photo. And vice versa. You can click on the photo and it tells you the location in the map. So as I told you before, I think this kind of completely changes, right, how you exploit photos taken in the field. What's the overhead that we added for users? Nothing. They take a photo, that's it. QuickCapture does the rest. We collect all of these additional metadata, and then you can exploit it with this tool. So that's basically the oriented imagery demo. You saw how easy it is to set up. So I encourage you to have a look. We actually have a blog on this, describing this. So if you look, well, we have a blog, maybe in the Q&A, we can add the link. So the other aspect I want to highlight is this notion of workflow automation, also super powerful concept. So workflow automation is all about kicking in processes right after data is collected. You take an observation in QuickCapture, and then we launch a workflow that does something with that information. So in this case, the moment you add a new point, we automatically find what's the closest location, and then we store that as an attribute. That's one example. I'm going to give you a demo of this. I'm going to use a third-party tool called make.com. So make.com is not Esri, okay? This is not a product from Esri, but you can create your own accounts if you want to give it a go. You can create a free account and try this out. So the idea with Make is to create scenarios. In these scenarios, you are going to integrate applications together. So the trigger for my workflow is going to be ArcGIS QuickCapture. So I'm going to use the QuickCapture connector in Make, and I'm going to watch a project. In other words, I'm going to connect this module with the project that we just created together. So I'm going to basically connect using my what is my QuickCapture demo account. Here it is. I'm connecting into ArcGIS Online with this account. This is going to list all the QuickCapture projects that I have created with this account. And then I'm saying, okay, what layer in your project you want to listen to. So in this case, every time an issue is created from ArcGIS QuickCapture, this scenario is going to be triggered. And what this scenario does is really up to me. I could send an email to someone. I could send an SMS. In my case, what I would simply want to do is, you see, this is an Excel spreadsheet I created in Office 365. and it has date submitted, some attributes. No coincidence, these are actually similar to the ones we are collecting, right? So what I want this make scenario to do is basically store all my observations, all my issues in that Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to search for Excel, Microsoft 365 Excel, and then I'm going to go into add a table row. It's one of the actions available. I'm already connected to Office 365. I'm going to select my workbook, which in this case is the Redlands Trails worksheet, which is basically this guy, okay? And then here, I'm going to select the worksheet and next the table. So this is going to now display all the columns in my table. And all I need to do now is to map the cells to values from QuickCapture. So I'm going to click here and say, okay, get the geometry from QuickCapture, get the Y, bam, I put it there. The X goes there. The status is different. The status is always going to be submitted. The comments, if there are any comments, they must come from the feature attributes comments. Priority, same thing, priority. Submitted by, collected by. And date submitted is a little bit more complicated. This is a date. Dates in ArcGIS are stored as Unix time, Unix numbers. So to make them human friendly, I'm going to bring up the format date function, which takes two parameters. The first one is the Unix time, which will be collected on. And then the second parameter is the format. So I'm going to do year, month, day, hour, and minute. Okay, that's the format. And I think I'm good to go. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to turn on my project, and I'm going to basically run it. So at this moment, I'm debugging. The scenario is listening. So what I will do is I'm going to go back into my project. I'm going to download the update. And now I'm going to collect one issue. So I'm going to take a photo, and then I'm going to take test, make, next, medium priority, done. And then you will see that as soon as my phone sends the data, you see that there is one record pending to be sent. Oh, it's sending the record right now. Oh, and this guy now is running, you see? So if I look at this, look at all the attributes, all the geometry, all of this is coming from QuickCapture, and it's being used by this module to add a new row into my Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to refresh my Excel spreadsheet, and now, voila, I have the date submitted, submitted by, priority, comments, XY location. I even have here, I have a formula. If you look at this, this is an Excel formula, right? So what I did, I was basically created a URL. So my oriented imagery widget starts centered at the specific location, and then it basically displays the point that we took. So I mean, again, what you can do with Make is really up to you. Often I see people doing automatic notifications via SMS and email. Sometimes we do instant data transfer. This is what I did now. But also data enrichment is a big one, right? You can enrich the data collected by QuickCapture. For example, you may want to do a closest feature search and then associate the ID of an asset to the observation you just made, things like that. In this link, you can find more information about playing with Make. And just to finish, a couple of additional features. Location sharing, it's a capability of ArcGIS, totally supported in QuickCapture. This is in case you need to know where people are at all times. So while they are collecting data with QuickCapture, you can collect information about their location. Okay. Well, I think it's time now for the Q&A, right? Live Q&A. So
we have some great questions that have come in throughout. Some of them actually people submitted ahead of time and they came up again. So I think those are the hot ones. Maybe we should start there.
Yeah.
I think you've got some fans out there, Ishmael. People know that you like Survey 123 and QuickCapture, and they're really wondering, what's the difference between Survey 123 and QuickCapture?
It's really the user experience. Survey 123 is designed for you to build smart forms. So we put a lot of effort into understanding, okay, how is the user going to interact with the application to complete all these series of questions? You have many features. I mean, really, QuickCapture is on the other side of the spectrum. In QuickCapture, our obsession is to reduce the user interaction with the device as much as possible. So if you need someone to do an interview, to do a thorough asset inspection, Survey 123. If you need someone to do a casual observation of something, QuickCapture. The other aspect also is this notion of nested data capture, like when you are doing inspections, for example, of linear infrastructure like pipes, or maybe right-of-way patrols. QuickCapture is actually a very good tool because you can collect lines while you are collecting the points, which is something that you cannot do in any other ArcGIS mobile application, right? Now, the thing is, you can actually combine QuickCapture and Survey. One feature I didn't talk about is link buttons. So if you go into Designer, you will see at the top, there is a bar. You can create a link button. A link button doesn't create data. It launches other applications. So what I have seen sometimes is people create a QuickCapture project, and one of the buttons launches a Survey 123 form, right? So in cases where you need to collect more attributes, and that way you can combine them both.
That's great. And actually, someone brought up the fact that you mentioned collecting nested features. So I think that is something they're missing. I'm so glad to see here. Now, of course, we want to know a little bit more about where you can use QuickCapture. Can it work offline? Like, does it work in areas without service?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you can do the test yourself. You download the project, put yourself on airplane mode, and well, it works. In fact, if you open the map before you go offline, even if you configure a web map, QuickCapture is going to cache your web map locally. So even if you are working and you temporarily lose your connectivity, you are still going to have the map working, okay? But for cases where you want to go completely disconnected for days, my recommendation is that you configure an offline map, which you can do easily. You saw how I changed the map myself, right? Pointing to a web map, but you can also use a mobile map package.
That's great. So many options. Speaking of location where you can use it, someone's wondering, is it appropriate for indoor use?
Well, I mean, I would say it's a little bit early to use this for indoors because QuickCapture cannot connect to the ArcGIS IPS, the indoors positioning system yet. So that's something we're working on. So in 2023, we are going to support indoors use. We want to learn more about your use cases. So drop us an email or drop us a chat so we can actually get you into the beta program so you can start using QuickCapture indoors as soon as it's possible.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Please send that in. That'd be great. You were just mentioning about those base maps. Someone mentioned that they already have many base maps and mobile map packages on their iPad for field maps. Can that be used for QuickCapture projects?
Nope.
And they have to make copies for QuickCapture?
No. And this is something beyond what we can do in Esri. Like the architecture, of applications within your mobile device is such that they are kind of, for the most part, isolated. So we can't steal or reuse resources from other applications, unfortunately, in the devices. Yeah.
It was a good question, though. Thanks for sending that in. There's some core questions around lines, so I'll just put a couple of those out there. How do you avoid overlapping the lines from different users? I think that was during your demo, you were showing different lines.
Yeah, I mean, the overlap of lines between different users, there's no way you can avoid it. Like, how do I know what lines others are going to collect? That's like a post-process. If it bothers you, you'll need to adjust them.
Okay. And can they be easily converted to polygons, or is that done externally?
Oh, polygons, if you build your project on top of a polygon layer, when you tap on the button, it will create a polygon. It's as simple as that.
Someone was wondering about editing. Are there any editing capabilities in QuickCapture?
There are, although I didn't mention them, but when you create a feature, you can actually go into the map and move it if the author allows you to do that. Sometimes authors don't allow it, but as the author, you can control what type of editing can be done on your features. In fact, there is a workflow, which again, I didn't describe because we didn't have time, where you can configure a button to sort of center the map at your location, but wait for the user to actually set the location manually. So the classic example is you want to flag, say, a house as inspected. You are outside the house, so you don't want the button in the middle of the street, right? So you can drag the pin to the rooftop of the house. That's a classic one. So this is configurable within Designer.
That's great. Thank you. Now, going back to data, for data that's observed in the distance, is there a way to choose points from a map and apply variables?
Not really. Not really. This, like if you are thinking about loading existing data into QuickCapture and then using QuickCapture to change it, like, nah. That, I would go there on that one. I would go with either Survey 123 or field maps. Okay.
Yeah.
QuickCapture is fundamentally about collecting new data, like not updating existing data.
Okay, that makes sense. You got a lot of kudos for your presentation today, just so you know. And lots of people love the photos in general. There have been a lot of comments around photos. Someone's just wondering where they're stored. Where do you store?
As attachments. In ArcGIS, photos are always stored as ArcGIS attachments.
Perfect. And earlier in the presentation, you were showing QR codes. There's a couple of questions around those. If you have several field workers using the app, how do you share the QR code with them to download the map?
Well, let me share my screen very quickly here. Show a screen, I guess. Can you see my screen?
We can, yes.
Okay. So when you come here, you are going to share your project, obviously, with the group or whatever, and then you can basically copy this image, put it into an email, put it into a piece of paper, etc. The other approach is right from the device. So you see my mobile application, right? So if you go into the gallery and you click on the information button, in this dialog here, you can view the QR code. So two people in the field can do like peer-to-peer sharing, right? I can show you the QR code of my project right from the mobile application so my colleague can scan it. And you can scan the code either from within the application here, scan the QR code, or if you like, you can also do this. Open the camera on your device, scan the QR code, and bam, this will load the project right away.
Perfect. So easy with the QR code.
Yeah.
While you've got that demo going, I don't put you on the spot, but just in case, you mentioned being able to collect data with voice commands, and they were hoping they could see an example of that. Is that something you could show?
Yeah, actually not, because we only have 3 more minutes, but there is a blog, and I think in the email you are about to send, Jackie, after the session, we are going to include a link so you guys can do all the step-by-step instructions to configure. Yeah.
You'll see it then. Then just read your email. We'd love to hear from you. There's a survey in there too. We'd love for you to finish that off too. A couple of quick ones. I think we've got a couple more minutes. During the demo, someone was just wondering, like, how did you disable collapse when you were demoing?
Yeah, no, totally. I'll show the screen again. You basically select the group. So don't select the button, right? Here I'm selecting the buttons. No, select the group. So you can aim for the label or the line. And then on the left side, you have this option to make the group collapsible or not. That's it.
That's it. Perfect.
Yeah, that's it. You can also choose to show your groups as collapsed by default. So when the user starts the project, they may, appear collapsed. That's really up to you. I kind of like to disable this. Sometimes it's not really needed. So. Got
it. People were really impressed with the workflow automation too, and maybe this will be our last question. Can Make or Integromat, I think they know Integromat is now Make, see the project input variables of the QuickCapture that a user inputs during the data collection, or does it just see the attributes of that feature layer?
Well, let's have a look at Make. I mean, you see it all. Like if I go to feature attributes, comments are coming from a button user input. Collected on, this is a date in Unix time. This is a device variable. Collected by is a project user input, device variable. Button user input, device variable, device variable, device variable, device variable, device variable, device variable, right? So remember, device variables, project user inputs, and button user inputs are simply different ways to populate a GIS field. And when things come to to make, that's what you really are going to look at, attributes. If they come from one source or the other is kind of irrelevant.
I suppose you're right. And with that, I think we're at time. And I just want to thank everybody so much for joining us today. And don't forget to check out the other Q&As. We'll put that blog up on the Esri community. So thank you so much from Esri. Really glad you joined us today. And great job, Ishmael, as always.
Thanks again to Ishmael and Jackie for sharing your expertise and time. We hope that you go make it a great day. Tell a friend about Esri and Directions Magazine. Thanks, everybody.